Hey y'all, it's J Rams here, back at it again with another video. Before we get started, can you please like, comment, and subscribe? That would mean a lot to me. Thank y'all. So I've been wanting to make this video for a long time. I just never thought I had to explain it or felt like I needed to explain it, but I think it's time, just because I watched my old videos back, and it was all about like transitioning and being transgender and whatever not. A disclaimer, like, if you feel a certain way, please don't watch this video. If you're sensitive to the topics that I'm about to talk about, just please don't be mean. This is my experience. I'm not gonna hash nobody else for their experience. I love all people, and I accept everybody's decisions, their opinion. So my opinion matters as well as yours. Everybody's opinion is valid, so just keep it to yourself. I'm gonna just tell you the story. So when I was 15, before we get into 15, I'm gonna go back into like elementary school. So in elementary school, like, I always was a tomboy. I already always knew like I was like different, than most girls. Like, I had really masculine features, and stuff like that. High cheekbones, jawline, muscles, broad shoulders, abs. I was born with that. Like, I always like looked at myself and I was like, why was I born like that? You know what I mean? Because like, my mom adopted me when I was 4, and she wanted a girly girl, right? Somebody who would like like dresses and shit. And like, I think the reason why I didn't like dresses is because I didn't like the way I looked because of my body, you know what I mean? So like, I looked at my body as like shit, like I'm not supposed to be a girl because my body don't look like a girl, and that was my mindset, like, growing up. Like, I was just like, like, something wrong with me. Like, I don't fit in the way people want me to fit in, or how I feel like I should look, to present as a girl, or be a girl. I was born a girl, you know what I mean? So it was kind of weird, growing up, because I never liked wearing dresses and wearing girly clothes and shit like that. My mom always wanted me to, and I did, to make her happy, but I was miserable while doing it, you know what I mean? Because it was like, I just felt like it was embarrassing. Like, my body's just embarrassing. Like, I look like shit, And when I got older, everybody always called me a tomboy my whole life. Like, everybody knew me for, looking gay. Even before I came out as lesbian, gay, whatever. People always, just thought, I was gay. Just because of the way I dressed. And so, like, years down the line, like, I ended up, like, figuring out my sexuality. And, that's when puberty started to kick in. And I realized, like, I don't like no guys, like, at the time. Like, I don't like no guys, like, I like females, shorties. And, that was, a thing in itself, that I, started going through my identity and, my gender and, everything like that, sexual, identity and shit. Like, I was just like going through a lot of shit, trying to figure out myself and, what I liked, and, the puberty shit, when you start to really, understand your hormones and feel your hormones for the first time. And I realized, like, my whole life, like, I never talked about guys. I never wanted to be with a guy. I never had the craving or desire to be with a guy. And so that's how I really knew, like, I like females. Like, I would look at a female and just be, like, drawn to them, you know what I mean? But at 15, I realized, like, after having, a few girlfriends and whatever not, I realized, like, it's not the girls that are the problem. I'm just not happy with myself. Like, I don't see myself, like, the way, like, I want to see myself, you know what I mean? And that's where the whole gender started to get really confusing for me, because I was like, like, what's happening? Like, why don't I feel happy with the people I'm with, even though they're not the problem? I know I like girls, you know what I mean? Like, I know I like girls, you know what I mean? So it was like, it was very just all over the place for me for a long time, and it really put me in a depression state when I was like 12 to 16. That's when I was like really depressed, like really like depressed. And you gotta remember, like, I grew up where like gay was just coming out, like, you know, people was trying to like understand it, you know what I mean? Like, I was the first gay person in my school type shit. And it was just really weird to look at it and be like, you know, well, I want to be myself, and I'd rather be myself than kill myself, you know? Like, it was just very hard, you know, very hard to understand why I was different, why I felt the way I did about myself, and what really changed that for me, you know what I mean, and made me feel the way I did. And that's a lot going through while you're going to school, you know, and while you're trying to, you know, grow, and it's a lot. I felt like I was going through a lot more than other people, and it was just a lot. That's all I could say. But at 15, that's when I came out as transgender to, you know, everybody. Once the new year came around, I, you know, told my teachers, like, call me James, and told my friends. I made a post. I came out September 27th, September 20, I think it was 27 or 22, September 22nd. I came out, and, you know, I got positive, you know, feedback, but in the midst of it, when I was in school, people were making rumors and shit, saying like I can't get, you know, girl pregnant and shit like that, and it went around the whole school. And it was just a lot of shit going on once I came out. You know, it was positive, but there was a few people that really, you know, said some shit, you know, about it. And there was also like a Instagram page where people was like, it was called the Shade Room for my school, and, you know, people was talking on that shit, and they ended up talking about me and saying some crazy shit. And, you know, it was just, you know, that type of shit, you know. And I think, you know, like, when I did come out, I was like really happy, but I wasn't happy because I was like 15, couldn't start T, couldn't, you know, express myself, but yet, you know, people was calling me male, you know, you know, instead of female, they're calling me a man, you know what I mean? And I like that, because I was like, well, that fits me, you know. And I didn't understand, like, you know, why I felt more comfortable. It just felt right to me, you know. But as I, you know, went through high school, I didn't start T. It really like helped me educate myself on, you know, testosterone, on the transition process, and on, you know, myself, what I wanted, you know, how I wanted things to go, what dosage I wanted to start on, and what, you know, dosage, you know, would be right for me. I started on a low dose. I started on 0.1, up my way up to like 3.5 at 19 years old. And, you know, my mom told me, like, don't do it, blah, blah, blah. And I ain't listen, you know, because I'm stubborn. But I ended up taking T, paid for it myself. You know, had a job. I have a job right now, but had a job, paid for it myself. My whole transition was by myself. Like, nobody helped me with that shit. It was very hard for me to, you know, realize, like, my mom was accepting, but she just didn't help me. Like, my mom wasn't like the kind of mom to, like, you know, really, you know, help me with shit like that. So I did that shit myself. I started T at 19. I ended T at 19. And during that process of being on T, you know, I don't really talk about it, but this is what the video is for, I guess. When I started the process of being on T, like, I always had mental health issues my whole life, right? Because I've been through a lot of shit, and I might make a video about that so you could really understand, like, who I am and why I did the things I did and what happened in the midst of, you know, it connects, you know. But I've always had mental health issues, you know, growing up and shit like that. And I never, you know, realized, like, once you get on T, like, you feel like different things you ain't never felt before, like emotions you never felt before, in a different way. It's more enhanced, and less emotional, more like physical. Everything is more physical, you know what I mean? When I got on T, it was like, you know, I don't know how to cry no more. Like, I don't really want to cry. Like, and I needed to, because I was still grieving through things that, you know, happened in the past and shit. And crying, you know, it really does help you, you know, grow and heal. You know what I mean? So if you can't cry, and you used to cry more than what you are now, it's a different change. You know what I mean? And I was getting more angry. I always had anger, you know, issues and shit like that. So that anger that I was feeling, like, it was just to the point where, like, I didn't even realize I was even snapping at people. You know, I didn't realize I was even being that mean. You know what I mean? And it was not because I wanted to be mean. It's just that hormone. You know, that hormone's very strong. People don't tell you, like, testosterone is way stronger than estrogen. By a fact, like, it's way stronger than estrogen. Estrogen is more emotional, more in tune with your, you know, emotions, how you're feeling. And that's why girls talk more, because, you know, they know how they feeling more. You know, guys don't really talk a lot because, you know, they just, it's surface. Like, we don't, like, they don't feel it the way girls feel it. Like, I could say that. Like, men don't feel the emotion the way girls feel it. Some men do, but a lot of men don't, because it's the testosterone that you know, kind of hinders it. You know what I mean? It's a different emotion. Like, you just want to, you don't even want to talk about it. It doesn't even matter. Like, it's like, okay, like, yeah, I'm sad, but, like, whatever, fuck it. Like, that's how it feels. Like, and that's what I was going through. I'm like, yo, this is weird. Like, I used to be the kind of person that, like, I knew how I was feeling, and I knew, like, how to talk about it. And now I don't even want to fucking talk about it. Like, I'm gonna just let it, you know, go to the side. And that's not what we need to do. Like, that's not how we supposed to operate, but that's how it is. And so when I realized, like, certain things about testosterone weren't really healthy for me, that's when I really, like, took it to another level, where I was like, okay, like, ooh, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. Like, is this normal? You know what I mean? It kind of make you feel like, what did I do type shit. Like, did I make the right decision? Because everything is just so different. And also, like, after a while, like, when my body started changing, like, I was happy as fuck. Yeah, like, I was getting muscles and shit. Like, yeah, I was getting muscles. Like, I've always been muscular as a female. I knew I could gain them on testosterone. But it was like my body was changing in such a different way than I expected. Like I wouldn't get no facial hair, and I was like a year on 10 months on T, about to be a year, and I wouldn't get no facial hair. And I know sometimes it takes a minute. I had a mustache and shit, but, like, it wasn't anything big, you know what I mean? But it was just like my body, after a while, like, started, like, to feel foreign to me. It didn't make sense to me, like, anymore. Like, you know, like, all the changes happening, like, it didn't make sense to me. Like, I felt disconnected from my body. I felt disconnected from, it's almost like these, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's basically like disassociation. And I just felt so foreign in my body. Like, I didn't know how to, you know, describe it. It was just like, this is not my body. Like, I know, like, this is what I'm doing in my body, but it's not my body. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I feel like once I started T, it made me think more about, like, femininity, you know, more than anything. Like, it made me think about, like, shit, like, I like that part of my body, and now it's changing. Like, you know what I mean? I like that part of my body, and now it's changing. So it was just like, it was a different feature, you know what I mean? And you know, the weight gain and shit like that. Like, I ain't never gained weight. So when I started gaining weight on T, I was like, oh, this is good. But then after a while, I was like, I don't know about it, you know what I mean? Like, it just felt foreign to me. That's all I could say. And in that process, it also having complications. A lot of people don't tell you, like, when you get on T, like, when you're female and shit, like, naturally female, you have chemicals in your body that produce to help you stay alive, help you function properly. And when you put synthetic things that are not natural in your body, it fucks up your naturalness of your body. So when people are on T for 5 years and they get off of T because they're either not happy or there's complications, it's like it could kill you type shit, because it's like a shock to your body now. Like your hormones are a shock, your natural hormones are a shock to your body. And so it's like once you rely on that drug, like it's really hard to get off. And I'm glad I only did it for 10 months because my body snapped back in place. But it's like, or when you put an unnatural shit in your system, don't be mad about what your body does to it and what your body tries to revert. You know what I mean? And you know, I've you know, heard stories of people that detransitioning say like, oh, like I can't have kids now because, you know, my body doesn't function the same way, or I you know, went through all the surgeries, and you know, now, you know, I feel real foreign in my body because, you know, I can't reverse it now. You know, I can't reverse, you know, going back to my natural, genuine self. And I think that, you know, people have a stigma of detransitioning, and I don't understand why, bro. Like, I understand it, but I really don't, because at the end of the day, it's like a lot of people that be talking have never been through it. You know what I mean? Have never detransitioned. And a lot of people that be talking about detransitioning, and if they're trans, they have never even tried to stop T. So it's like don't talk if you don't understand it. You know what I mean? Like, I realized, like, me detransitioning, like, what the fuck was going on in my body, like, and what was happening in my body. Like, I remember going to the hospital and nobody knowing, like, how to help me, because it wasn't like my natural. They didn't know, like, you know, like what to do with my body. You know what I mean? Anymore. Like, I went to the hospital for, you know, something with my genital area. And a lot of people that are trans have problems with their genital areas after a while, because the chemical in your female genitalia, right, produces so you could keep, you know, moisture there. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry if you don't like this, but I'm trying to educate people. You know what I mean? Because I wish that somebody would, you know, educate me. So, you know, it doesn't produce any, you know, moisture down there. So when you take tea, right, it like sucks the mucus, not mucus, the moisture out, and it makes it to the point where it's like dry. And when it's dry, there's complications with that, because it physically hurts. You're even though you're on testosterone and shit, you still need something to help your genitals function, because the way the girl's genitals are, it could fuse together and cause a lot more complications. It could cause UTIs. It could cause medical attention, surgeries. It could cause a hysterectomy where you need to get your shit out. It could cause a lot of shit, because it's basically trying to turn into a male genitalia, right? But when it tries to turn into a male genitalia, it can't, because we already grew it out of the womb, basically. Like, whatever happened in the womb is the way it's supposed to be. So when we try to alter that, and we put testosterone in our systems, right, and we try to do that shit, our bodies are trying to, when we put that extra dose of testosterone, it's trying to make its way to be a male genitalia and fuse together and make the male gooch and shit like that, or whatever not. But it can't, because our bodies are genetically permanent like that way. So when you put that shit in your system and it tries to do that fuse shit and it makes it really dry, it's because it's trying to turn it into a penis. But it can't. So we need medicine. I needed to text my doctor, the one that was, you know, prescribing me my testosterone. I texted my doctor for this medication that helps keep the vag, or the girl genitalia, producive, so it could keep it working the right way. I wasn't getting my period or whatever, or my shark week or whatever, but yeah, it kept it so it was moisture. But it was the pain that really like made me think about shit in a different way, because I'm like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm having way more complications than I ever did type shit. You know what I mean? And also, like, I'm young as fuck. Like, what? Like, I'm young as fuck. Like, I'd rather, you know, be natural in my body than fucking get myself some shit that I ain't never had before. And a lot of people, you know, will choose, you know, their gender over whatever. And I had to really get over that fear of, like, people not seeing me the way I wanted them to, because at the end of the day, I am who I am. I love myself. I even got that tattooed on my fucking arm right now. I am who I am. And, you know, it took me a long time to, like, realize that, like, I'm not gonna change myself for society. I'm not gonna change myself. I gotta love myself, like. And I had to, you know, stop testosterone for medical reasons, because that shit was physically hurting me. Like, that's all I could say. Like, it was physically hurting me. Like, I was having issues. I was having complications. It wasn't going away. Even the medicine I took, it wasn't going away. And I was just like, I'd rather stop and, you know, let my body just go back to the way it was. Would I go back to taking testosterone one day? Probably not. Just because my boyfriend loved me the way I am. And I love myself for the way I am now more than ever. I think I love myself more than I ever have in my life, just because of this situation that I, you know, put myself in. And I also love myself more because I realize I don't need to change to be myself. You know, I don't need to change for, you know, people to like me or whatever not. And you know, that was really hard for me. It was like a grieving process again, because, you know, it didn't work out, and it was very, you know, hard for me, you know, because I always had a sense of the body, but I didn't think, you know, it would affect me like that, you know what I mean? And so when everything really, you know, happened, it really put a shock on my mind, my body, because I was like, now I gotta go a different direction. I don't know if I could go to a different, you know, direction, because, you know, that was the initial direction I wanted to go in, and I thought it would make me happy, and it did make me happy. Like, I'm not saying it didn't make me happy, but I'm not gonna fucking choose testosterone over my, you know, over my healthy body. Like, I don't care what nobody say. Like, I'm not gonna do that shit to myself, because at the end of the day, it's not worth it, to me at least. So, you know, I had to go through that shit and, you know, heal from that. And I've been off of T for a year almost, about a year almost. I'm about to hit a year in March, Detranstioned. And the things I just wanted to tell you about, like, my detransition story is, like, my voice hasn't dropped. Like, my voice hasn't dropped any lower after I stopped T. My voice hasn't gotten any higher after I stopped T. Once your voice drops on T, it never goes back. So my voice dropped already. It's gonna stay the way it is. My Adam's apple is not gonna go away. It has went down a little bit. It's not as big, just because I stopped so early in my transition. But I have a prominent Adam's apple, which I like. I don't care about that. I have a prominent Adam's apple, and it's the perfect size for me. I'm good. I didn't really want my voice to drop anymore while I was on T, to be honest. I knew that a lot of my family members that are guys have pretty deep voices. And I knew that I wanted to keep singing, and when you have a deep voice, it's really hard to, you know, hit certain notes. So I'm glad that my voice stopped where it was. But I knew that if I kept taking T, it would have gotten way deeper. But I'm glad that, you know, it's where it is, you know. What else? My basically all the changes that I have experienced, I have my Shark Week again, which is my period. I have it again. My weight has dropped again. I'm back at 126. I used to be 130 around. When I was on T, I was a size 32. Now I'm a size 30, back at my original size. My foot size is still the same. It's always been the same. But my hands have gotten a little bit leaner. They're not as big, but I always had big hands. My face has went skinnier again. It's not as big and shit. My neck is still pretty big, but it's not the way it used to be muscular wise. My eyebrows are not getting any thicker, just because I stopped testosterone. I'm still getting mustache hair. I'm still getting stomach hair. And I'm still getting mad leg hair and mad arm hair. Yeah. And I think that's about it. Like, everything's just going back to the way it used to be. With a little pluses where I have, you know, a little bit more arm hair, a little bit more leg hair. Before I started T, I didn't have nothing. So I'm pretty happy about that. It's pretty minimalistic. It's nothing too big. But it's small changes that I noticed, that I'm pretty happy with. And I just really wanted to talk about this because I felt like, you know, I didn't make a video, and I know this is a long video. If you stayed to the end, thank you. But, you know, I really just wanted to say, like, my decision is my decision. I think I did the right decision for me. I think that, you know, if you frown upon people that detransition, just please know their story. A lot of people don't just stop because they're unhappy. They stop because they either want to, or they're going through complications, or they just found themselves, you know what I mean? They found a different route that they wanted to go through, and that's perfectly fine. Everybody's going through a growth, you know, situation. It's not your situation, so I don't feel like you should judge. And honestly, at the end of the day, you know, people can choose what they want. I'm not saying like go and just take testosterone. You know, I'm not gonna say go and just detransition, but, you know, really understand what you're doing before you do it. I knew what I was doing, and I still had complications, and if I didn't have complications, I probably wouldn't stop. But, you know, really understand people's stories, because a lot of people are not just detransitioning to detransition. A lot of people, you know, have bigger things that they're going through that they just probably haven't told you, or you probably just don't know. So, you know, really, you know, don't just hop on somebody's ass and, you know, say like, oh, they're not trans no more, because it's not that they're not trans. It's the fact that their body couldn't handle it, or they were just going through a lot within their body that the body just said, fuck it, I'm not doing this shit, you know what I mean? And I have a very sensitive body, so, you know, when you have a sensitive body, you gotta watch what you're putting in, whether it's, you know, a steroid, whether it's drugs. You have to be very careful, because your body reacts differently than a regular person's body would. So yeah, so please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you like this video. I know it's long. My name is Jay. Also, Jay is out, and I hope you like this video. Please comment down below what you think about this video, and stay safe, y'all.